Riot, please stop the war against your community. Hello, welcome to Professor Hartman, where I talk about game design, game development, game theory, gamification, and related business, tech, social, and life topics. I am, unsurprisingly, Professor Hartman. Riot has two fundamental problems that inform and infect its administrative decisions, corrupting one of the most brilliant and successful video games ever made. The first is the late stage capitalist obsession with employing as few human beings as possible, made worse by the latest corporate circle jerk around replacing as many jobs as they can with AI and automation. That's why we keep getting automated systems rather than human curation of reports and logs. The second is the warped belief that absolute rank purity in competitive games is, first of all, possible, but furthermore, the highest, most sacred goal, and all other things must answer to it. Fun, creativity, originality, friendships, human relationships, garbage. All of it grist for the mill that is rank integrity. I'm going to talk more about number two, the banning of people playing off meta picks, lobby termination, lobby hostage intervention, the war on dueling, the weird obsession with hitchhiking, boosting, and other pejorative terms. But I'll touch on number one a little bit. Now, who the hell am I to make judgments? Well, I've been a professional game developer for 35 years. I invented the free-to-play business model. I have taught game design, the game industry, and esports in college for over 8 years. 4 of those years as part of a partnership with Gen G and my university. I met my wife through one of my video games. Video games are my career, my hobby, my passion, and a fundamental thread in my life and my family. Also, I truly love League of Legends. I have friends and colleagues who work at Riot. It would take hours to explain what this game has meant to my family, my friends, and I. And this footage in the background is when we went to Worlds in 2022. Both of our daughters played it competitively in high school and college. My family has played this game together since our youngest was 4 years old. And yes, including her playing at 4 years old. By the way, if she wanted to go pro, she could. But that's another video. And that's why I care so much about this game and about the esport and its continued health and existence. This video is pretty critical, but I assure you it is made from a place of love and support. So let's talk about the holy meta. Every meta that makes League of Legends worth watching today started as the exact kind of off-meta heresy that Riot now bans players for attempting. Jungling as a role, split pushing, leashing, the entire concept of a dedicated supports not CSing. None of this existed when the game launched. The original meta was 2 top, 1 mid, 2 bottom. Everybody CS'd poorly. Wave management wasn't a thing. Freezing a wave, what the hell? Crashing a wave, crashing the game maybe. Nobody bought wards. The only champion who could even jungle was Warwick. Nearly everything that defines competitive League today, every strategy you have ever cheered for at Worlds, every champion identity you take for granted, the entire miraculous entity that is T1 Carrier, all of it began as someone trying something that the conventional wisdom of the day said was stupid, griefing, or wrong. League's entire competitive identity is built on the back of experiments that Drew Levin would ban out of existence. Why is Riot suddenly so obsessed with what champions people play, what lane they play it in, what strategies they attempt, what mastery rank they are for using that champion? They've been autofilling people for 15 years, and all of a sudden, they want you on your optimal champion at all times. Maybe mind your own business. Yes, people who are full sending it, AFKing in the fountain, intentionally feeding, they should be banned or suspended. Review those reports with a human being who can tell the difference almost instantly with high accuracy. But automated bans that punish unique strategies that may or may not work? Gross. Let people experiment. Let people try wild things. Let's all laugh and stare in amazement when it works or when it falls down. This is a game. We play it for fun. Creativity is everything. Every memorable, defining moment and strategy in competitive gaming or sports history comes from someone deciding to do something the conventional wisdom said wouldn't work. Let's look at chess, the Magnus Carlsen gambit. Hell, half the stuff he plays. Every opener or gambit or defense ever invented. Basketball, small ball, death lineup, reliance on the three, baseball, the shift, relief pitchers, designated hitter, football, the spread option, the tush-push, shotgun formation, hell, even the forward pass. And how would Drew Levin officiate this Super Bowl? I mean, that's the quarterback. He's supposed to throw. That's a receiver. He's supposed to catch. So, I mean, better hope. Wait, what's going on? Wait, why is he throwing the ball? Ban that guy. Why is he catching the ball? Ban that guy. That's not a touchdown. Terminate this lobby. A little absurd, yes, but I think you get my point. When Carrier picks something insane at Worlds, the entire viewing audience loses its mind because that is what makes the game worth watching. Treating that same impulse in solo queue as an offense against the game and its integrity is admitting you don't understand what your own game is. Now let's look at playing with friends. Why do multiplayer games exist? As someone who has, as I said, 35 years experience, now not quite 200 plus, but I'm getting there, making multiplayer online games all those years, I can tell you why devs like myself make games like this: to create a shared experience with friends and family. League's developers know this. The administration seems to have forgotten. This off-the-rails obsession with hitchhiking, boosting, smurfing, the automated micromanagement of what account you play with which person is absolutely insane. People play multiplayer games so they can play with their friends. Yes, even ranked competitive games. Who cares if playing with a friend gets someone a slightly higher rank? Our social fabric is held together in part by the fact that making friends or finding a life partner leads to a more successful life than being a miserable, friendless, lonely asshole. A community that promotes and rewards appealing social behavior thrives. A community that attacks friendship becomes toxic. Which one does League have? Why is Riot listening to the angry, jealous bleating of its most toxic and destructive players? If they don't like it, they can, God forbid, make a friend. What a concept. The arguing is self-correcting. The argument. If two friends play together and win at a given rank, that rank was earned. If they don't, the climb stops. There's no integrity violation. There are just two people playing a game together. This war on friendship, this war on duoing is strangling the game in the crib. The number one way any online game gains new players is not advertising or fancy, expensive, amazing Netflix specials. It's word of mouth. Friends getting their friends to play. One of the hottest genres in video games right now is friend slop. Among Us, Lethal Company, Repo, Peak, Phasmophobia, the list goes on. Billions of dollars in games whose only real feature is log on with your friends and do dumb stuff. That is a huge part of the demand for multiplayer gaming, and Riot is fighting it. Onboarding for a 17-year-old competitive game is existential. The single most reliable onboarding mechanism in gaming is a friend who already plays, brings you in, and plays with you. Not sending you a download link and saying, hey, we can play together in 2 years. We can play real games together in 2 years after you get good, scrub. Riot has spent 17 years building obstacles between players and their friends, dressed up in the language of competitive integrity. And for that matter, what is this absolute obsession with the ultimate unattainable goal of rank purity anyway? When did rank become such a sacred and important thing? When did some arbitrary determination of what is true and pure and fair become an end unto itself, rather than a means toward the real end, which is fun? Dark Age of Camelot had the best PvP of any MMO, and they had ranks, and people noticed them a little bit. But what people really cared about was the respect of their realm mates and the fear of their enemies. Would people follow you into battle in the frontier? Would they run when they saw you leading a group? How many posts were made about you on the forums? Rank is temporary. Reputation is forever. In 2008, my family, we were in a huge mall in Bangkok, Thailand. And I was in the arcade with my daughters and my wife was shopping. And I was down to like a couple of coins and they wanted to ride a bunch of the little rides. I saw a bunch of kids playing Soul Calibur, winner stays, loser pays, and the challenger has to put an extra coin up as like the bet. So I was like, well, let me give it a shot. I've played Soul Calibur, mostly on Dreamcast, but here we go. Well, I won 30-something games in a row until both of my pockets were just heaped with coins. When I stopped to go, do the rides with my kiddos, my older daughter, 8 years old at the time, but fluent in both English and Thai, said that the kids were just losing it, flipping out, so laughing, saying things like, "How's this big guy so good? Someone come beat this old man. Who can beat the old man?" And I thought that was hilarious and funny and charming. And they were patting me on the back and I couldn't speak to them. And it was awesome. And that story means more to me than any rank I ever achieved in any season of any video game. And it's because the stories and experiences you have playing video games are memorable and lasting because of the people you share them with and the way you engage your imagination. That is what makes video games so special and incredible. And that's why I love them so much. Rank is ephemeral and disappears into thin air every few months. Now, I'm not saying that the integrity of rank is unimportant and meaningless. Of course it matters to the game. But let's not lose sight of the fact that we're talking about a video game people ostensibly play for fun. Rank is not more sacred than friendship. Rank is not more important than creativity. Rank is not more valuable than experimentation. Rank is not more deserving of protection than the fun itself. I can already hear the "don't play ranked" Canard. That rebuttal, every time it's made, is categorically wrong. Many people want to play seriously, locked in, executing macro, working as a team, but along with creative and unusual strategies. These two desires are not in conflict. Pretending they are is just admitting you've never really watched or understood competitive sports or competitive gaming at the highest level or any level. Of course, the original sin underneath all of this is choosing solo queue as the competitive priority. But again, that's a topic for another video. So where has all of this gotten us? Where have, all of these different, tweets and problems and everything, where has that gotten us? We have a game company at war with its own community over problems it designed into the game itself. We have admins who cultivate the public persona of a hooded executioner, delighting in banning people, spending hours of their day arguing, threatening, and trolling players on social media. We have automated enforcement systems that punish a vision of the game which runs directly opposite to the reasons the game exists in the first place. And we have a studio that caters to the loudest, most elitist, most toxic voices in the player base. Then turns around and asks, why can't we attract new players? Why are people ashamed to admit they love this game? So what about some solutions? Ultimately, the best solutions are going to come from Riot and their truly brilliant development team after they listen to the community. But a few of my own suggestions. First, Public-facing Riot leadership should not be litigating punishments and policy on Twitter or any public forum. They especially should not be trolling users and exposing their account data and history. That is grossly unprofessional. Second, troll pick detection, bans, suspensions in general should require human review. Only the most obvious violations, using the N-word, etc., should be automated. Third, report volume alone should never determine punishments. Anyone who knows anything about games, the internet, human beings knows report volume is itself a toxicity vector. And last, a public reaffirmation by Riot that Ranked is a competitive game mode for fun, not a sacred space, and that experimentation and playing with friends at all levels of play is part of the game's identity rather than a threat to it. Riot, I am begging you, look in the mirror. Your community is not your enemy. Your community is the biggest reason your game still exists 17 years later. Trolls exist everywhere, and you absolutely will not automate them into extinction. Banning AP Blitz top because somebody trolled with Yumi Jungle is not a win. Banning friends for playing together is not a win. Wins are measured in fun, friendships, creativity, and perhaps something even your decision makers understand: customers retained and dollars spent. I'm not just preaching here. I'm speaking from experience. In my early days as a game developer, I took cheating very personally. I argued with my players, I ranted and raved in public, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong. Thank God I learned before I went out of business. My oldest game turns 30 years old this summer because I changed. So Riot, please, stop demonizing creative players. Stop treating people who play with their friends like criminals. Stop terrorizing your customers with abusive staff acting in bad faith online. Stop replacing human judgment with automation. Stop amplifying your most toxic voices by validating their unreasonable demands. Your game deserves better. Your community deserves better. And perhaps most of all, your developers deserve better. They pour their lives into this game with crunch, long hours, sacrifice time with family, and they've delivered a brilliantly executed piece of work, only to watch admins destroy it with the swoosh of an automated ban or the click of a virulent tweet. League of Legends has brought joy and happiness to hundreds of millions of people, millions of whom made friends, found spouses, and built families because of this game. I want to see it thrive for at least another 17 years. I teach my students that you own your game until the day it releases. Then your players own it. At that point, you become its guardian and its custodian. Drew Levin and most of the people making these decisions weren't there in the beginning. They didn't make this game. They inherited it. The community has been there longer. Respect that and listen to them.